For this talk, I would like to welcome Tuija Seipell to the stage from The Cool Hunter. Tuija, the stage is yours.
Let's wait. All right. I'm not wearing the headphones because I hate them. They make my head feel really hot. So as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. I don't have to hear myself. And I tend to move around, so I can't have a thing in my hand, so that's another problem. All right. I'm not here to ask you to tell fairy tales. One of the problems when we start talking about storytelling is that people think it means that you're going to tell stories, meaning you have to come up with some fake idea of how to make it interesting. That's the absolute opposite of what I'm talking about. What I want you to think about and have seen in my life and in my career that what works is when you make things as personal and real as possible. So no matter who your audience is, whether it's the end user, buyer, customer, client, investor, banker, whoever you are talking to, faking it is not going to work in the long run. You have to be yourself. You don't have to be like somebody else. You don't have to match somebody else's idea of what you should be. The realer you are, the better you will do. I know that. I absolutely know that. And it's actually funny because I've been a judge in a lot of, and a trainer in a lot of pitching competitions, and you can tell immediately whether they are real, whether they are really into it themselves, or whether they are trying to fake it. And in the long run, that's going to kill you. It is literally going to kill you because it is very, very exhausting to try to be somebody that you are not, or try to make others believe something you do not believe yourself. So make everything human. That's my idea about storytelling, is making everything human. Because nobody else buys but humans. Every single person that you will try to impress is a human, believe it or not, and every single one of them makes their decisions based on emotions, no matter what they say. You don't want to deal with people you can't stand. If somebody is an asshole, you don't want to deal with them. So let's come out with who we are as early as possible so that we can sort of scare out the a-holes and be among the people that actually can help us, that we can actually relate to. Because what we are trying to do with our pitches and our ideas is to sort of get to that empty space. There's already enough stuff going on out there. There are enough people trying to talk to the very same people you are trying to talk to. So how do you stand out in that fog? It's so full that it starts to look blank. It's so full of noise. It's so full of people trying to get to you and get to the same people you are trying to get to, that how are you going to stand out? And the way you stand out is to be exactly who you are and tell your story. It doesn't mean big, long yarns. It doesn't mean, you have to get weeping every time. But it means you have to be real. There is no other shortcut, because unless they remember you, how are they going to support you? And the only way they remember is if you have impressed them somehow. And emotions are the way to that. So we're looking for emotional connection. Let's do something. Cross your hands. I'm not going to lead you in a prayer, so don't be afraid. How many of you have the dominant hand's thumb on top? So if you're a right-hander, is your right thumb on top? Mine is. Not all are. It's completely useless information. No, absolutely no benefit to anybody. I always thought everybody had the dominant on top. Who cares? Try the other way around, though. Now it feels like I have about 4 fingers in one hand, 7.5 in the other, and there's still one extra little finger. There are some to whom it's totally irrelevant. Are there any here who are fine with both ways? There are very few of them. Oh, there's one. Irrelevant information. You are totally wonderful the way you are. My point is not let's, consider the physical implications, although making a physical connection is always good. My point is that this is what change feels like. When you make them the wrong way around, this is what change is supposed to feel like. So when you are asking people to support your idea, you are actually asking them to do this. Even if it's something nice, even if you're entertaining them, even if you're solving their problems, you are asking them to change the way they are doing things, doing it a new way or doing a completely new thing. People don't like doing that. The grown-ups don't like change. Also, if you have not used stories in your pitches and in your selling and in your marketing and in your PR in particular, PR and stories are the equivalent. If you haven't done that and you will start doing that, you will feel like this for a while. Get used to it. It's okay. That's what change feels like. So every time you feel like, oh God, I can't do this, just remember that and say, okay, this too shall pass. It will go away. Change is behavior. Change is not words. Change is not, yeah, we've heard it. Change is what changed. What did you do differently? What did they do differently once they'd heard you? Why did they behave differently? Because they were impressed by you. Change is always behavior. Head changes don't really matter. So what you're doing, what we are looking for is emotional connection. And that is in our DNA as humans. Since times immemorable, in every single nation, every single type of people, they've always gathered around a fire at the end of the day for safety, for warmth, for companionship, and for passing on information. Telling stories, talking about the dangers, talking about the day, passing on stuff. So it's totally in our bones, this idea of telling stories and listening to stories. Where I come from, I live in Vancouver, on the west coast of North America, and the indigenous peoples there tell their stories through wood. Each totem pole, they should never be in a grouping. This is a tourist attraction. That's not a natural way of displaying them. There's only one pole at a time, and each pole tells the story of the chief, or the house, or the family. That's the history book of that house. Also, in the Northwest Coast natives, stories are property. If you are really valued as a friend and you come from outside that tribe, you may be given the gift of their stories and you will get the right to tell their story. But it's property. It's actually listed. This house can tell that story and nobody else. That's how valuable stories are. When you think of the best storytellers in the world, whether it's politicians or religious leaders or tyrants, they are all big storytellers. And we are inclined to believe their stories if we think the way they think. I have a dream. He made it personal. He made it believable. People wanted to believe him. Martin Luther King was one of the best speakers ever. And the second best is Barack Obama. If you never ever if you only listen to one speech in your life, go to YouTube and search the speech that made Obama president. It's a 6-minute speech that he gave in the Illinois Convention And he was more or less an unknown senator in the country. And through that one speech, he won the hearts. And he did everything that a good storyteller does. So I still cry every time I watch that speech because it is so good and he is so real and he is so personal. We want to believe people like that. So, history is stories. History is nothing but stories. Religion is nothing but stories. Politics is nothing but stories. News is nothing but stories. Culture, theater, books, music, opera, they are all stories. Entertainment, movies, games, all of that, it's all stories. It's all stories that touch us in one way or another. Branding is about stories. Advertising is about stories. What I'm trying to say is that stories are not something that you sort of invent because you've decided to invent them. It's actually everything you ever believed in is based on stories. Not facts, stories. Facts come later, facts support the stories, but the stories are the ones that make you say, yeah, I'll stand up for this. I'll give my money. I'll give my time. I believe in this. That's what stories do. Because although so many things have changed, certainly in the last past 2-3 years when we thought the world was going to end, everything has not changed. And what has not changed is that emotions still drive everything. In fact, I believe it's become more important. We had time to consider that we're all going to die. We had time to consider that we may die, or somebody we know may die. We had tried to consider, do I really like my life? Do I like my spouse? Do I even like my children? Do I like anything that I'm doing? And when you do that, you have to go in. You have to start thinking about your feelings. So certainly in our lifetime, this is probably the prime time when people are willing to believe and need to believe again. So going that direction with whatever you have to offer is a good soil. It's a well worked up soil for us. These are the feelings we crave, and I'll shortly talk about a little bit of each of them. I did this list before the pandemic. And it came up for one presentation where a company was talking about, we need to know what consumers, what they want. Well, that's a stupid, open question. Who knows? Who knows what consumers want? Depends what kinds of consumers you are trying to influence and for what reason and who are you and what do you have to offer. But these are the biggies. These are the big feelings that we all need. We need safety and we need security. That has become extremely important. If it ever was unimportant. We need clarity. There's so much noise. There's so much confusing information. There are so many choices that we need clarity. We need relief. We are sort of, everything comes at us all the time. So if you can make my life sort of, okay, now I know where I'm going, that will work. We need direction. Show me where I need to go. Show me how to get there. Don't make me wander around. Don't give me a million choices. Give me the right choice. Don't add, take away. I've always said, and I'm more convinced of that now after the pandemic than I was before, that don't keep adding, actually keep taking away. How clear can you be? How clear dare you be? Like, okay, if you don't know what to do with one function or one thing, take it away. Keep taking away till you get to the core and then start enhancing that rather than keep adding to an unfinished product, unfinished service, unfinished idea. That just creates a mess. Transparency has always been important. It is now more important than ever. No bullshit, no bullshit, no bullshit. It will not work. If you don't believe it, nobody else will eventually also not believe it. It will come back at you. Support. People want support in everything they do, whether it's fun or illness or everything in between. People need support and they need trust. They are looking for trust. Can I trust you? If I give you my money, my time, my attention, my whatever, can I trust that you are good? You'll be okay with it? Or are you going to turn around next week and say, oh, I don't think that's what we meant? We are looking for love. That's the biggie. Sounds hokey, but it's not. The bottom of my shoes, it says, moving forward in the powerhouse of love. I totally believe in that. I bought the boots for the color, but it doesn't hurt what it says on the bottom. It happens to match. And the biggest of all biggies is hope. We want hope, especially now when everything is going, down the drain. We want hope. Is there anything you can do in your service, in your product, in your selling, your advertising, your pitches, your PR, where you can touch these feelings? Think about it. It doesn't matter what your service or product or idea is. These feelings rule us all. There are very few people that don't need these. One of my heroes is Walt Disney. And he was the ultimate startup guy. Went broke twice, had 2 nervous breakdowns, peddled every house and everything he had to move his ideas ahead. He had nothing going for him except stories. He had no education, no background, no money, no nothing. But he had stories. And what he said was that that's what we storytellers do. We restore order with imagination, and we instill hope again and again and again. There's that biggie again, hope. We need that so much. And I know it might sound like, sort of abstract, but I can assure you that I could take each one of you separately and we could go through with your team the ideas that you have offered, and we would find what gives hope. If we don't, then maybe you should rethink. What I also like about Walt Disney, he said, it is kind of fun to do the impossible. That's also my motto. Things are impossible only till you are done, till you have done them, and then everybody's going to try to do it. So don't give up. Keep going, keep going. This is me a few years ago. And one of the things I learned at school to hate, and I loved school, was history. My history teacher managed to make every single story about history so goddamn boring that I know nothing about history. Absolutely nothing. He made it all sound like it was nothing but kings and years and battles. The tests were all about, what king won what battle in what year. None of that sticks in my head. I know he let me pass the final test just because he didn't want to mar his own mark, because he always had good marks as a teacher. I would have been the first failure. However, now that I'm older, I have learned to love history, because history is people. There's nothing but people. History is nothing but people. So here I am in Rome. Why did I hate history? I told you. Now I'm in Rome. A few years ago, speaking at a conference in Rome, and I took some time to play tourists. Of course, I go to the Sistine Chapel. Of course, I take the tour, because I like to hear the local sort of Italian English. It sounds so good. I love that. And also, by taking a tour in something so massive, you get a little bit closer to the core of it, and at least get one perspective, because it's too big to just see. So there it is, a little Italian lady, very charming. She's the curator who is leading our tour. And she takes us through the whole thing, and there in the center is the whole creation story. So Michelangelo has created, there he is creating man, and there he's giving man his life, and there he is creating the heavens. And then this little lady, she stops us at the center and points us to this. And she says, this is an aspect of God that one does not often see. It's God's bum. Here God is, he's coming, he creates the sun, he creates the moon, and then he turns around and goes away. And what do we see? Is he's behind. So I asked the lady, the curator, I said, is this the only God's bum in the world, in fact? And she said, I believe it is. What a great story. Immediately made me think of Michelangelo lying there on the platform and thinking, oh, I still haven't finished the ass, I still have to, 2 days I have to paint. Why did he paint it? Why did he show us God's bum? And how come the popes didn't kill him for that? How come they didn't say, no way are we showing God's bum? What amount of stories come out of that one interpretation? My point is, and I'm past my time, my point is that this lady who led us in the Sistine Chapel through this unbelievable array of art and history and stuff, by her personal sense of humor and attitude and incredible, ability to tell a story, she made it so much fun. I've told this story 1,000,000 times since. Like God's bum, there it is. So stories work even in that kind of world where everything has already been said. So that black blot that we talked about in the beginning, that's what she was looking at, in fact. The Sistine Chapel is so full of stuff. And yet she made it sound like a story. So decide who you are trying to influence, decide why, decide what they care about, and decide why they should care about this. And dig deeper into the emotions. You are looking for emotional connection. You are making sure you're authentic. You are giving depth. You are giving more dimension to what you offer rather than the numbers and the surface stuff that everybody knows how to do. And you are going to activate the imagination of the people you want to influence. And I swear you will make a difference. They will remember you. Thank you.